We say see you later to all of the beautiful people we met in New Caledonia, as this would be our final international passage on Annecam. And I'd like to thank Annie for all of the work she put in doing customs, clearance and immigration so we could get underway. We sail out past the last semblance of civilization, the Port Lateral mark, marking the Dunbia Pass, through the reef as we leave New Caledonian waters. And I follow doctor's orders and keep my foot up and rest on board Annecam. I rested all the way back to Bundaberg. This is our track for this passage from New Caledonia to Australia, including the change of course around a nasty storm and the slight interruption we had when a marlin ate a small lure, including crossing our economic zone into Australian territorial waters. Our first day out on this passage saw us flying along 8s, 9s and the occasional 10 on the speed over the ground as we were hooked into some really nice trade winds. We hoped that they would hold all the way back to Australia. This was trade wind sailing at its best, and this was going to be some of the best sailing we had on this passage. Little did we know at the time what Mother Nature had in store for us. At sunrise, on day 2 of this passage, the weather conditions were already starting to go light. The wind was starting to ease. We still had a little bit of leftover seas from yesterday's trade winds. By high noon on that second day, the conditions became that light that we were able to fly 2 genoas, one poled off the spinnaker pole and the second one poled off the end of the boom. Flying the 2 genoas up forward allowed us to keep the boat speed up just over 5 knots, but we weren't game enough to keep them both up overnight in case we were clobbered by a squall in the dark. The breeze started filling back in at sunrise on the 3rd morning. We figured by pointing our bow at the setting of the sun, we had the direction right at least once every day, because somewhere where that sun was going down was Australia. We found it extremely hard to imagine that we're over 350 nautical miles from the nearest piece of land, out here in the beautiful South Pacific Ocean. We had time to reflect on the beautiful times and the magnificent places that we'd visited over the last few years as we made our journey from Croatia back to Australia. Every day we kept an eye on the weather forecast via Predict Wind on our Iridium Go, and it was telling us there was a low pressure trough building, rolling off the mid-east coast of Australia. This low pressure trough was building fast, was going to turn itself into quite a nasty system. try as we might, we could not get ahead of it, so we had no choice but to turn back into it and head around behind it. The decision to turn back into it and go around behind it was the right one in the end. All we copped was a really good washdown. At sunrise on the very next morning, it would reveal that it was back to situation normal with some nice trade winds to sail on. I thought it would be a really good idea to run one small lure behind Annecam to try and catch a small tuna or a mahi-mahi for some fresh fish. But little did I know that elephants do eat peanuts when a thumping big marlin grabbed hold of it and had us backing around all over the ocean for over 4 hours.
Look at it. See the bin?
Yep. How come it's not tail walking?
Because he doesn't want it. He's only just starting to fight.
Oh my god. Don't let it come jumping in the boat.
Let you run away. Go forward. Hard.
Oh god, don't get on our prop. Oh, he's gone.
The hook straightened and pulled at about the right time. After all, what does one do with about 500 pounds of marlin when there's only 2 of us on board to eat it? Annie did a fantastic job furling the sails and keeping control of Annecam. I dropped a waypoint onto our chart plotter before we left New Caledonia while planning this passage. The waypoint marked the start of Australia's economic zone. We were 200 miles from mainland Australia. The excitement was real.
We finally got into Australian territorial waters. Yahoo!
Yes, we're home.
One more night at sea.
Yep.
It's been a grueling passage.
No, not that one. Ripper,
Australian gold, let us rejoice.
For we are young and free, with golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is girt by sea. Hello, Gert and Hiker.
Another really good indication that we were getting closer to home is that our AIS was starting to show a lot more targets. These targets are commercial ships in the East Coast shipping lanes. The AIS shows us who they are and what they are and how close they will get when we pass each other. We also use our radar as a collision avoidance system. We turn this on every second 15-minute cycle while on watch at night. We launch and fly our yellow Q flag, our Quebec flag, to notify the authorities as we arrive that we have not been through clearance. We also hoist the courtesy flag for the country that we are about to enter as a sign of respect to that country. We are an Australian flagged vessel, therefore we do not have to do this process, but we did this one out of pride. We sailed through one of many algal blooms, usually a result of the coral spawn, on the east coast of this country. And just as we sailed past the North Cardinal at the Breaksea Spit at the north end of Fraser Island, we could barely make out the landmass, our first sighting of anything Australian since we left Croatia. And right on cue, we called it the Welcoming Committee, as a lone dolphin came out to ride on our bow as we entered Hervey Bay waters.
Who's happy to be back in Australia?
We're in Australia. Have Bundy.
Who's one excited little girl?
We enter the Burnett River and head straight to the Bundaberg Port Marina. We look back at our journey on Annecam, and we still strongly believe that what we did, and when we did it, it was the right place at the right time. After we ticked all the boxes with biosecurity and border force for passport control, it was time to really enjoy our homecoming. We were absolutely blown away by the warm welcome we received here in the Port of Bundaberg. The local Burnett Heads IGA has a courtesy bus. They came and picked us up where we could purchase our provisions, and they delivered us back to Annecam. Good Australian food, served with a smile. We found it's the same around the world. Christmas is almost 2 months away, and yet the decorations are starting to hit the shop floors. Right alongside where Annecam was berthed, in the Bundaberg Port Marina, was the vessel the main event from the Lady Musgrave experience would take out the tourists every day out to the beautiful Lady Musgrave Island and Lagoon. We dressed Annecam with all of the courtesy flags from the 52 different countries we had sailed to. The very next day, I was admitted to hospital as the staph infection in my leg had flared once again. The hospital discharged me just in time so I could attend one of the final Down Under Go West rally excursions with the rest of the crew. This has been an absolute blast, putting these remakes together with old and new footage. Stay tuned and watch this space as we attempt to put our Annecam Sailing Australia series back together the right way up.
G'day everyone, you're still here. Well, stone the flaming crows. Just hit the like and the subscribe at the end of this video. Cheers from us sailing on Annecam.
In life, we must be willing to let go of the life we plan to live so as to have the life that was planned for us to live.